Okay, the rise of the Metaverse and Web3 and African perspective. I know it's been a long day, it's been an interesting day, but if you can find your hands, you can clap as well, eh? It'd be really cool. So our panel, of course, will be moderated by Wesley Dipoko, Editor-in-Chief at Fast Company South Africa. Let's hear it for him.
Hi, everyone.
It's okay, Wesley, man. They're finding their hands, brother.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Kino. Hi, everyone.
All right, Ernest Mbankam, who is the founder and CEO of Interstellar Incorporated and also founder of the Bantu Blockchain Foundation. Good to see you, sir. And then Norbert Adamako, who is Chief of Communications at Metis. And finally, Modibe Matsapane, Community and Education Manager for Africa at Paxful. There we go. I'm going to hand over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Kino. Welcome, Modibe.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are right at the end of this session, so I hope everyone is still hungry enough for the information that we're about to share. So we want to talk about Africa and Web3 and the Metaverse and the meaning of this rise of the Web3 and the Metaverse. But I think maybe before we talk a little bit, I just want to introduce my panel a little bit and just for them to introduce who they are, what do they do, that type of thing. I think we want to start with you, Ernest. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm the founder and CEO of Interstellar. Interstellar is Africa's leading blockchain infrastructure company. We work with central banks and commercial banks and other major payment companies to help them get into the Web3 and Metaverse, if you may. So developing CBDCs and the like. And I'm also the founder of the Bantu Blockchain Foundation. It's a layer 1 protocol and Africa's first upload as a blockchain infrastructure. So thank you.
Yeah. Ernest is someone you want to really know because I think he's working on something very, very important in this space. And we also have Nobe from Metis. Do you want to just introduce yourself as well?
Thank you, Wesley. So yeah, my name is Norbert Amankwa-Dumako. I'm the Communications and Africa Lead for MetisDAO Foundation. For those of you who do not know Metis, Metis is building an infrastructure to run the Web3 economy. And currently, we are known as a mainstream layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. So our main net, which is the Andromeda network, launched 10 months ago. And currently, we are ranked as number 3 in TVL for rollup scaling solutions on Ethereum. We currently have about 91,000 active wallets on our network, with a TVL, as I said, ranked number 3.
Thank you, Nobe. Thank you very much. Lastly, we want to introduce Modibe from Paxful. Modibe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Wesley. Absolute pleasure to be here. So I'm part of the Paxful team, specifically overseeing Africa. And what we do is we're building the financial system for the 100%. And what I mean by that is with the emergence of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, which are essentially allowing people to do borderless transactions, there's still limitations as to what people can do. But what Paxful is doing is basically connecting anyone from any part of the world with other people on the world. And I'll give a practical example on, let's say you wanted to make like a simple thing, like sending a payment from South Africa to UK or Zim. It might prove to be strenuous and very expensive. But what Paxful has done is enabled a peer-to-peer marketplace where you can easily buy Bitcoin here and then sell it in the UK to someone who will make a payment on your behalf. So you can do a lot of things, remittance, cross-border payments and the likes.
Sure, thanks for that, Modibe. I appreciate it. I think, if you ever doubted whether Africa or this region is playing a role in this space, I think this event has proven that there's something really happening in this space. And I think our discussion will touch a little bit on that. And maybe before we get into the nub of the issue, I just want us to talk a little bit about Web3. What exactly is Web3? What are we talking about? And I realize some of the people in the audience know what we're talking about, but there are some of us here who really have no clue what we're talking about when we're talking about the Web3. Ernest, do you want to just give us a context of why this thing is important, and particularly for the continent?
Yes, Web3, as you know, we've gone from Web 1.0, which was the first internet, Web 2.0 with major organizations, Facebook, Amazon, and the rest. And Web3 now is taking us into the decentralized web. And that is critical because it eliminates a lot of friction that is affecting the world today, whether it's in banking or in making certain critical decisions in payments and other services. And we find that within Africa, it's particularly difficult for people to make even basic transactions within the continent or get certain services. So with Web3, not only is it going to be faster, it's going to be cheaper and also accessible to millions of people at a very low cost, and more important of all, addressing issues of equity, sustainability, and all of that. And we feel that for the first time, with just your handheld device, you have access to so many opportunities, like what the internet provides today, or what the internet did for us with the first web. Today, everybody, particularly in Africa, is leapfrogging. And Web3 is that promise that it's now permitting each and every one of us to play a role and participate in this ecosystem.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think most of you would agree with me when I say that Africa missed out on the opportunity during the era of Web 1 and Web 2. But now it's different. And how is it different, Nobe? Do you want to just take us through how is it different?
Yes, so Web 3, which is the third generation of web technologies, we can see that Africa has not been left out. So just as we saw a very growth in the African crypto markets, we saw 1,200% increase in the Africa crypto market back in 2020 June to 2021 July.
Yeah.
And we are expected to see another 500% growth from here to by the end of 2025. And we can see a lot of Web3 companies having an expansion to Africa. This is because Africa is embracing Web3 technology. We can see innovations, we can see developers, we can see entrepreneurs, and this Africa is an emerging market, meaning we have new opportunities and we are driving in a lot of adoption. Yeah. So Africa is not left behind.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, a lot of, I think a number of you in here are probably looking forward to hear what do we mean when we say there is a rise of the Metaverse and Web3 in the African continent. What does that practically mean? Because I'm sure some of you may say we haven't really felt it, or we are not participating, or even if you are participating, what does it mean? Ernest, do you want to just tell us a little bit, what does it mean when we say there is a rise of this thing in this continent?
So we have to be, first of all, how can I put it? What the telephone has done, smartphones, for our people is incredible, the likes of MTN and the rest. But more recently, you've seen things like what the Central Bank of Nigeria has done with the e-Naira.
Yes.
I mean, this is the largest CBDC implementation after what China did. And it was a bold step which has inspired many other banks across the central banks across the continent to start to do that.
Yeah.
Because when cryptocurrencies came about, people rushed in to, that's sort of their entry point. And they rushed in to make a difference in their lives. And it kind of caught regulators and major operators, like a shock. It was shocking to them. But now we see the central banks, commercial banks, and other payment providers that we are working with closely now to begin to get onto this internet, Web3, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this rise, significantly driven by the youth, the Gen Z and others that are following. These children want instant gratification. They want things to happen fast. And the traditional systems are not designed for them, so to speak. And so there is a massive adoption. In fact, we've heard other panelists talk about Africa being sort of the fastest growing market already. And we are only just scratching it. So this rise, by seeing what they are doing, for example, with the e-Naira and other financial institutions now that are getting on board, it means that they are taking this very seriously, and they don't want to miss this train. Yeah. And they are now seeing that they are responding to market demands from the youth. So even though there were restrictions before, they are now more open to it. And this wave is kind of raising all of us up at the same time.
No, for sure. And I think part of what you're talking about, or part of what this is about, is different to, what we had before, where we were building on top of what the other parts of the world have built for Africa.
Yeah.
And now Africa is building the infrastructure itself. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Nobe? What we're talking about when you talk about the rise of Africa, basically?
I believe that Africa is not only being at the consumer end, in this Gen Z ages, just as Ernest said, we are also building our infrastructure. And we have Bantu here being a local blockchain unit for Africa. We can see new developers emerging from markets like the Nigerian blockchain developer community, Ghana, we see the likes of Kenya. All these countries and South Africa are contributing to the developing end. Not only are we using the products and protocols from the West and East and America, we are also building our own infrastructure here. And talking about the metaverse, we can see African artists also showcasing their arts. I believe I said that the only way that you can see a great art is when it's being showcased to the world. We only know of Leonardo da Vinci because his art is all over the world and people get to see it. But we might have a very great artist in one local village back in a local country here in Africa who is also a great artist. And so this Web3 space, being at the developer end and the metaverse, is providing the opportunity for artists, for entrepreneurs to showcase their ingenuity. And that is what we see the youth chasing here in Africa.
Thank you very much. Mudibe, do you want to just add on that as well, as far as the extent to which Africa is owning up the space by building its own infrastructure? Do you want to just expand on that as well?
Yes, so I'll start by sort of briefly highlighting that for any form of technology to be adopted, there has to be like use cases or problems which have been solved. And right now, I'll give an example with myself. I've not worked in an office straight out of school. I've just been working from home through my phone as well as my PC. There's a lot of opportunities in the space which are exposing Africans, and that allows us to be able to understand the space better and then build our own solutions. So I feel like, in addition to what the other speakers have said already, in the past we've been consumers, we've been used as the testing ground for a lot of ideas. But right now there's a lot of projects coming out of Africa, which are, I believe that in a couple of years to come, will be globally renowned. So that's what I wanted to highlight on this. We are working with global players, learning from them, and then using that to build our own infrastructures, which will be very, very key in ensuring that we are not left behind like in the other technologies.
Ernest, you mentioned e-Naira, and I mean, in the audience, if you're not familiar with the e-Naira, it's the digital currency in Nigeria. Do you want to take us through the process that it took, or at least what it took for Nigeria to be where it is now, or to be able to have something of that nature today? And what can we learn from that? It's just like an example.
Okay, so as you probably already know, Nigeria is quite far advanced when it comes to the financial services or digital financial services. So through the leadership of the governor, Godwin Emefiele, they went out on this ambitious program to really understand. And they felt that by understanding the technology, cryptocurrency, digital currencies, they had to build something. So they went through a very long and rigorous process of selecting about 15 companies. We're one of those, to come and help them carry out research and do this proof of concept. And that took just over a year, and ultimately...
That's very short.
Yes, but before that, they had been doing a lot of research. But I mean in terms of the technical research on everything. So it was last year on October 25th that they went live with their own protocol. And it's been a success, and they are learning from it. And right now, there are a lot of use cases that are coming out because it's one thing to develop it, but then how do you get traction? How do you get the growth?
Yes.
So we've been supporting with that as well, developing the wallet that they currently use.
Yeah.
And also, ultimately, the last 2 months ago, they had a hackathon to really build out use cases. And within 2 weeks, they had more than 5,000 applications that signed up, companies and users, just to build on this. Amazing. So they are already using it for paying bills, bank transfers and all of that.
Yeah.
And you can swap between your traditional Naira and the e-Naira.
Yes.
So we are very excited about it, and we feel that it's going to help the way the USDC has played a role, or the USDT has played a role in the world, that the e-Naira and other African CBDCs can begin to go out. And in fact, a lot of central banks across the continent now are coming to Nigeria to see what they are doing and to learn from that.
Yeah.
And is it perfect? Well, it's an evolution.
Yes.
So they continue to grow. Yeah.
No, it's important. I think one has to comment on the time it took for Nigeria to be where it is. I mean, in South Africa, we've been, I think the Reserve Bank has been experimenting with this for like 2 years already, and I think we're still working on policies and documents and stuff like that, and I think it's about time that the currency be launched, I think, very, very soon, because there's a lot that you learn through mistakes, and you correct from there. I think we have very limited time, and I want to jump on the next part of our topic, which is about the future of Web3 and Metaverse in Africa. Now, when we get to this part, it excites me because I know that a lot of what happens now is probably not, not even close to what could happen in future. We know, like, companies in the US that are still researching even the Metaverse space, that, we talk about it now, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. Nobel, do you want to just talk a little bit about what do you consider, or what do you see in the future, in as far as Web3 and Metaverse in Africa? What do you see?
Yes. So as far as Web3 and the Metaverse is concerned, I believe the ultimate mission is to build an infrastructure to empower the Web3 economy. We might wonder why I keep on referring to Web3 as an economy.
Yeah.
I believe the foundation of Web3 is the social interaction between users. Meaning, not only do we have to focus on decentralization or privacy or only digital identity, but it should be focused on the users. And so, if we take from this perspective, and then we have a long way to go as far as user grooming for Web3 is concerned. And we need to have the network available to run the Web3. We need to have the users available to be able to use applications on the Web3. And from the African perspective, I believe that users can be prepared to be able to use applications within the Web3. Yes.
Interesting. Mudibe, what do you see? Where are we going? Where do you see the future going with Web3 in Africa?
I'm very optimistic, but as you know, it's very hard to pinpoint exactly where things are going to be. But with the way things are in Africa, we've seen the adoption of Bitcoin as well as other cryptos. We've seen the high penetration of internet. We're now seeing a lot of companies being built on the internet, specifically on the internet by the youth in Africa, meaning that in a few years to come, like they said, there's protocols being developed in Africa, things being done in Africa. I think in a couple of years, we'll have significant adoption of Web3, where we'll be playing a critical role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we likely to see an Africa currency across the continent? Ernest, what do you think?
Interesting question. So I believe that we have regional currencies, we have national currencies, but ultimately a time is going to come where there is the potential to have a supranational, a Pan-African currency, potentially.
Yes.
As you know, this year, the Pan-African payment and settlement system was launched. This is the first time that we are going to be able to increase intra-Africa trade, which has been less than 15%.
Yeah. This is
and this
after,
system doesn't require the euro or the US dollar.
Yeah.
It will be direct exchanges between African currencies. And this is being led by Mr. Mike Ogbalu, former CEO of Verve. And again, it's something that we are collaborating with them. And ultimately, we believe that a time will come where there might be a desire for a common African currency.
Yeah.
It might not come immediately, but when you look at things like the SDR, the IMF, like a basket of currencies, that is something that will probably kickstart this conversation within Africa. That will then be wrapped on blockchain. And then I do think that, yeah, it's possible, but with the central banks now taking an interest in blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology, it shows that there is an opportunity to have that one African, currency in future. It might not happen in our lifetime, but I do believe that it will happen.
Yeah. So I've got a theory. So in Stellenbosch, Kayamandi Township, we are trying to experiment with all things tech, essentially working with local communities to do things that are making a difference in society. And I think one of the things we may need to look at is a local currency for townships using this infrastructure that you're building. So we need to continue this conversation.
Definitely.
But I think I raised that partly to say, what do you think, Nobe, what will it take, to take us into the future? What kind of things do we need to do to take us into the future?
When we take a look back at history, what has driven human progress is social collaborations. I believe with the Web3 here, the look at the future can be driven by social collaborations, and that is what the Web3 is about.
Got it. What do you think, Modibo? What does it take for us to build these things that we talk about? What do we need to do?
I think, firstly, it will be education. Education on all these technologies. So that users can clearly understand what they're getting involved with and ways on how to do it safely. So once we educate people on how to interact with the technology, it will become much easier for people to adopt it without really understanding the technical aspects.
Definitely. Social collaboration, education, and I've just said we've got a test case in a community like the one in Stellenbosch. So I mean, maybe that's just one of the things. Last comment, Ernest, I give it to you. What do you think, lastly, we think we need to do?
Yeah, so infrastructure. For far too long, Africa has remained on the consumer side. So we took the enormous challenge of being on the infrastructure side. Because if we don't own our infrastructure, we can't be owners of our destinies.
Exactly.
So at Interstellar, we've been working with commercial banks, again, central banks, and also the leading payment companies to begin to retool their infrastructure. And with the Bantu Blockchain Foundation, which is Africa's leading owned and developed for the world, we are working again with regulated institutions to begin to make these services available. So we are learning because Africans' problems can only be solved by Africans. Africa's problems are unique, whether it's power issues or energy issues. We have to design technologies based on our unique challenges. So we've taken on those challenges, and we feel that that infrastructure, once it's in place, which we are doing with the commercial and central banks, we can then have the second and third and fourth layers on top of that.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think that was very informative and insightful. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot from that. Let's keep talking. I'm sure we can come out with something very soon.
Thank you.
Cool. Yes, I got worried there when you said, let's keep talking. I was going, it's 10 to already, but lovely, guys. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for the panel. Thank you.